Greetings, Mega Man fans, and welcome back to the Mega Man Super Fighting Robot LPA. In this episode, taking on Zap Man, the requisite electric boss, and one of the 3 bosses that was available in the Super Fighting Robot demo. The very same demo that would get myself, Shinryu, and quite a few of the other initial beta testers their jobs, more or less. Anyway, the first enemy we have to deal with here is Roto Cannon, a spinning cannon that shoots in the direction it's facing, either left or right, when it actually faces that way. Simple enough enemy, but it picks up in speed as you damage it. That first one there is great for introducing its actual panic mode. And in fact, the first time I went through this stage, it managed to blindside me very easily. And then the second one came along and gave me the perfect chance to actually experiment with it and learn the exact nature of its behavior, which is a very useful thing to know. So yeah, really well done on the Roto Cannon introduction. The first one able to successfully blindside the player, but given the current level layout, it's layout of the terrain, it's very easy to actually not get hurt, even if you're going in there blind. And then the second one here is just safe enough that you can very easily experiment with it. Good show, that. Barrage Turret here doesn't introduce quite so well. It sweeps its cannon downwards or upwards, firing 5 shots along the way, at angles of multiples of 45. It's a very simple enemy, not incredibly dangerous alone, but it's nasty in groups. But as you saw, my very first instance of it threw me basically into the fire already. Whereas that is an enemy that I personally feel is better introduced in an environment where you can observe its firing path without having to constantly jump to the beat. This is an interesting little setup, though. This is the stage's level gimmick. These Tesla coils will shoot electric orbs that when they reach your horizontal level, will split horizontally to try and hit you. And if they hit any of these specially marked floors, they electrocute them. It's actually very interesting, and I quite like this introduction. It splits right here, incidentally along this purple line, but then when you climb up here, now it zaps the actual ceiling of... It actually zaps the floor and doesn't split, because of the fact it can't reach you anymore. And then, now that we've jumped down here, it's going to split immediately. So if you choose to stop and pay attention in this section a little, you have a fairly good idea of how this gimmick behaves, which is a very nice thing. I appreciate how well Mr. Weird Guy managed to implement my introduction idea. And good thing too, since the stage does not take long to remind you rather rudely that yes, this thing can be dangerous. And in fact, as I can kind of show, it's not on screen right now, but it can still shoot at me. This gimmick can sneak attack you, so be careful around it. This guy, on the other hand, is fairly easy to deal with. This is Plug Clops. He's invulnerable everywhere except his head, which you can, and with this current setup, his plug balls, since they don't travel up walls or ceiling, they don't hit you at all. Whereas you are right in range to be able to shoot his head with impunity. Making for a very solid introduction, as you can kind of see how he works, and also know exactly where you need to hit him. Another good introduction is Magnetron here. When he's red, he'll pull you downwards, and good luck jumping. When he's blue, he will push you upwards, like so. Really well made intro here, since you have no choice but to use Magnetron in order to get to the next section. Unless you just use Rush Coil, I think. But if you're using Rush Coil, you're kind of defeating the purpose. And here we have another new enemy type. Head Volt. He moves in a circle and fires electric bolts above and below himself whenever he reaches the top or the bottom. that first one there is fairly easy to dispatch. The second one, you kind of got to take care of plug clops first. Fortunately, there's a nice little vantage point that makes it very easy to take care of plug clops. Roto Cannon here. Whoa, okay. Dang it, Magnetron! He's a fine example of how Magnetron isn't always helpful. Very fine example. It is actually possible to completely skip this section right here, but I've only ever managed to pull it off once. And make that twice now. Like, it is doable, but it's tricky. And, oh look! Gabule Type C! This is a familiar face. Though, I wouldn't say it's introduced as well as it was in Leaf Man stage, given that it lacks that safe little divot for us to stand on. And this is interesting. We need to be careful with dealing with these roto cannons, as we don't want to desync them too badly. If you desync them badly enough, good luck getting out of this room unscathed. The second one is obviously a lot easier to deal with than the first. And now, we actually have a bit of tricky jumping on these lightning floors. Do be careful with this last one, because it can totally do that. Which can make things rather tricky in this, bullet hell room. Like, because really, that's what it is. Like, right there, that was practically like a Toho game or something. And, oh! It's a letter! Mine... I said mine, darn it! Okay then. Leaf Boomerang, no matter how much you wanted to, can't grab letters or E-tanks. It can get any other item, but those are, I think they're too heavy for it. So, no cheating your way through that. I do like this setup, though. It's very neat how you... Basically, you take the floors, and now there's background walls that can be equally electrocuted. And also, standing right up there at that little slide hole, not the best idea, since you can totally get zapped while standing there. Okay, and got it! There we go. But alas, I had to backtrack, so we're going through this again. Oh well. Wasn't that bad the first time. Won't be that bad the second time. Although Magnetron might beg to differ. Whoa, that was close. These two barrage turrets right here are... Honestly, they're a lot easier than any of the sets before them, as you have a perfectly good safe spot literally right when you start up the room. Which, I can appreciate that, but that's the kind of thing I would have hoped to see in an intro for them. And a simple roto cannon. Oh, okay. We have explosive Telly Bombs. Beautiful. Though, they're not just simple Telly Bombs, they actually will pick up speed as they go. And as they turn to try and run into you, they'll actually, like, lose speed as they go. In other words, they have, you know, realistic momentum. It can be kind of tricky, particularly in this room. Good luck escaping this unscathed if you don't know what you're doing. And this is another tricky room to escape unscathed. This stage is definitely much trickier than Leaf Man stage was, that's for sure. Then again, this is thanks to it having clever gimmickry, which is definitely nice. Ow. Okay. Haha, made it that time. Oh, this is tricky. This is probably one of the hardest spots to escape unscathed. Case in point. it is actually a really tight escape near the end there. And Magnetron down there doesn't help things. But I made it. It's a very clever room back there, and honestly so's this one. There are two different ways to solve this room. The long way, which involves just plain killing the head folds, since you can snipe them from this position. Or you can time your jumps to get past them, like so. Timing your jump is a lot faster, but I personally find that killing them is the preferable option, as it is far safer. And this is a rare case. You actually want Magnetron to be pushing you into the ground rather than forcing you upwards, as it's a lot easier to get past these walls if Magnetron isn't shoving you upwards, since you can just slide then. Which, that's interesting. I really like how that room worked. For this room, book it. You don't stop. And now, since this is as good an opportunity as any, proof of concept, Magnetron can be killed. That being said, you should probably refrain from killing something that can actually be useful. And this is a tricky spot. I can already see how this is gonna get nasty later. Ah! If not sooner. Alright, get out of there before it shoots me in the back. And good, we're almost through. Just a couple of Magnetron jumps that really aren't that bad. Plug clops on ground level, which is also incidentally a far trickier plug clops than the few that we've had to deal with earlier. Ow, that was a bad jump. And then that little section right there, which honestly isn't that much different from that Zap platform segment before the bullet hell room earlier in the stage. And then boss gate. Unlike Leaf Man's level, I find this level's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I really enjoy the gimmick. Like the Zap platform thing and the Magnetrons both actually get a number of clever uses and combinations, which is really good. However, Barrage Turret does not have the most as effective an introduction as he could have, and the difficulty curve on the Barrage Turret enemies isn't as solid as I would like it to be. And additionally, that last room, while it worked well decently well as a reminder of most of the gimmicks that we would have encountered in the stage, it's not as difficult as quite a few of the other rooms before it, which again falls under the difficulty curve issue. I suppose that's my main issue with the level. Its difficulty curve kind of fluctuates. It has quite a few moments earlier in the stage which are a bit trickier than moments that pop up later in the stage, especially if you know what you're doing. However, Zap Man has a much simpler difficulty curve. I guess you could say he has two phases, but he is a pattern-based boss. He starts the fight with that double spark, and then he does a dash attack, at which point he starts up his pattern proper. His pattern consists of a dash, and then dropping a lightning bolt on himself, which actually really freaking hurts, so don't touch his lightning bolt. And then launching that little spread shot. And then he uses Zap Barrier, giving himself invincibility, and then performing that little dash jump maneuver. Once Zap Barrier has worn off, he launches those electric orbs into the air that will proceed to fly in your direction specifically. He's not that bad. At least, not right now. That being said, don't underestimate him. He is much trickier than Leaf Man, particularly once he gets below half health. Once he does that, he starts using his double spark again. And then once he starts putting that back, well, you saw what happened. I had a pattern down, and then everything went pear-shaped on me. So, he is a trickier boss than Leaf Man, though, I will note, I fought harder. In fact, I've actually managed to perfect run him once. This will probably not be one of those times, considering he is a lot harder to perfect run than, say, Leaf Man is. I still really like his fight, though. See? Said I wasn't gonna pull this off. Yeah, I thought I was safe. Evidently not. Oh well. I'm still in the lead. And as you can see, he does drop a lightning bolt on himself before you're launching the double spark. So he likes his lightning bolts. Whoa, aw, come on! Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Again? Yeah, case in point, Zap Man is not a boss to be underestimated. Especially since when he has Zap Barrier on, he is just straight up invincible. So, no dice. You really, legitimately cannot hurt him. Whoa. Personal space, man! When he does that little jump before launching that second orb, the direction he jumps towards is the wall that he is... It's the wall he's closest to, is what he jumps to. I probably shouldn't have jumped there. Wait, is it the wall he jumps? I don't actually recall what controls which direction he jumps in. Maybe it's in relation to you? I don't know. What I do know is that he's finally dead. Haha. Tough fight. A lot harder than Leaf Man, but still fairly fun. I really enjoy fighting Zap Man. And like I said, I've beaten him without taking any damage before. I should probably try that again sometime. That was an entertaining little challenge. Anyway, for defeating him, we get his master weapon, the Zap Barrier. It's Mercy Invincibility, and it also gives you a nice speed boost. It also gives you a speed boost, and allows you to run into enemies safely. Really good weapon, I quite like it. Anyway, with that, that's all we have for this. Okay, brain. Right. That's all we have for this episode. So, for the next episode, well, out of the frying pan and into the fire, as I always say. The next episode will be taking on one of, if not perhaps the hardest, of the 8 Robot Master stages. But until then, thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this episode, and I shall see you again for the next one. Until then, goodbye!